Ain't never gonna stop to the top, to the top. Ain't never gonna stop, never gonna keep me down. Still the one that's standing now. Destiny is calling me, go down in history. Every day I fight to be. Never gonna keep me down. Still the one that's standing now. Destiny is calling me, go down in history. Every day I fight to be.
Thanks to you, the locals will have heat and lights this winter.
I'll just pause the video as I go through the build here soon when I get back. Hover over everything, but it's the same one from previous videos. I just want to finally capture it in a countdown mission on heroic difficulty, so a heroic countdown. Which you never really know what's going to happen at extraction. It's like a 50-50 even with this build, because obviously you need an 8-person team, so there's a lot more that goes into it than just this guy, of course. But I definitely think this guy is very good, very, very good build for Countdown. But I think one of the best builds you can bring in Countdown, because you have the Coyote Mask, right? The Coyote Mask gives DPS buffs to everybody, including you. Now, before people think this, if someone else in Countdown has Coyote Mask, that doesn't mean that you aren't getting bonuses still from it. They don't stack, so if we're both within that 15-meter radius of an enemy when we're both damaging an enemy, it's not going to be like plus, 50% crit damage? It'll still be 25, so in that sense, then the person with the extra Coyote Mask is not helping. But the good news is, if you're at different ranges, which also obviously happens a lot, then you actually can stack the different buffs together. So if one person with Coyote is in close range, and like I'm at like medium range, then we activate both of those buffs to the whole team. So multiple people with Coyote can actually still be good in a team. So you have that going for you. You have the small little buff, I would say, the utility buff, which is ammo consumption from the gunner tree, generating ammo, and then Bullet King, whenever I shoot it, add someone for a while, generate ammo. Bullet King is just perfect, by the way, for this build, I feel like, because it helps stack minigun, and as you saw at the very end, I actually do use my minigun. The minigun signature weapon actually is good. It still does more damage than my primary guns, as well as obviously giving bonus armor and giving armor regen. And if you time it right, you can actually like take it off when enemies rip through your bonus armor and like go to your shield or something. In my case, go to shield to get invulnerability if the buff is ready for it. And then I just switch back to the minigun, and then I get that bonus armor again. So you almost like, you generate armor, if you just keep switching back and forth to it if you have a full clip. So just a little side tip about the minigun and a good way to also use it. Yeah, the gunner tree for that reason is perfect, and Bullet King's perfect with the gunner tree and this kind of striker gun build, because you just shoot endlessly. It's perfect for strike. It's the perfect weapon in my view for this kind of hybrid DPS build, support build, loadout for heroic countdown specifically, because enemies are so freaking spongy. But that just means that you're able to build up the striker, and with Bullet King shooting endlessly, never reloading, a lot more consistently. And because of that, your DPS isn't that bad. Like, you're not a DPS build, because I'm running a LMG with 5 armor cores, so I'm definitely not a DPS build. But it's also not bad either. Like, this guy, he's kind of like a DPS, he's kind of like a hybrid bruiser build. DPS with survivability, But then he's very, very good buff support, team support build. And especially like Countdown, like he's good in every team, I'd say, but Countdown is amazingly good. And that becomes, so Coyote Mask and Bullet King with Gunner helps, but the biggest buff, of course, is Perfect Vanguard. So I still run 5 armor cores, which means it's still given a good amount of armor, close to the maximum, because a 6th armor core would obviously help it more, but not that much, because armor, you know, the percentage you get, and therefore the percentage you can give to your teammates goes, like, it goes down, like you get less out of it the more you stack, so, which is why I decided to still use Coyote Mask, because it's like, 5 armor cores is high enough, I still want Coyote Mask for my own damage, and because it still helps the team, so it's still one of those things that helps buff the team too, except for DPS rather than survivability. But Perfect Vanguard, like, you just have the time, you can keep that buff, that armor buff on everybody most of the time, and for some reason only in Countdown, not when you're soloing especially, and not even when you're in a standard 4-person group, like you don't give yourself the bonus armor, but in Countdown you give yourself the bonus armor too. You give the entire team, including you, the bonus armor, which is crazy. It also means that I would say like almost probably the perfect team if you were to actually communicate and build a team for Countdown. I don't know why no one would have it so that all 8 people run Perfect Vanguard because they stack together. So just like I said, so I just told you how Coyote Mask can still be good with multiple people having it in Countdown, because then you can have the separate buffs active at the same time, so it does stack in that sense. But it doesn't stack if the same buff is active. That's not true with Perfect Vanguard. They just keep stacking on top of each other. So if all 8 players have it, you're literally giving yourself, like all 8 players will then be giving themselves 400% bonus armor just from that. Without having to do anything, just pop your shield every 25 seconds and then you get it for 20 seconds. It's like across the map. This is also why I love this build and all the buffs it does, because all the buffs are basically easy to... another thing about Coyote Mask is the buff is permanent too. Once you just hit any enemy, it stays on you and everyone until you activate a different Coyote buff, basically. You'll see the thing in below your armor where you see the buff, so you can actually confirm that. Well, once you just get the first hit on anything, then you have a permanent buff from Coyote Mask that just changes based off your range for the whole team all the time, no matter the distance. And then just like similar to Perfect Vanguard, as every time you pop it, no matter the distance, anything, all 8 people have that buff. So very, very good buff, I'd say. And yeah, that's why it's so good in Countdown. Like we struggle a little bit here, you saw at Extraction, but it's really hard not to struggle on Heroic Extraction because there's so many hunters. Everything is such a bullet sponge. There's so many enemies that spawn there, and then they just keep coming, of course, from the endless helicopters once you whittle them down low enough. So yeah, it's just crazy usually. But still, this guy, he's got to be one of the best Countdown builds, honestly, because of just like I said, I love that the buffs don't require much from me, and they're just permanent and across the field most of the time, because I don't like to use Galvanize. I know the meta build is to run 6 armor cores with a Perfect Vanguard, and then also Perfect Galvanize, but with St. Elmo's engine. I don't like to do that because it's not always reliable. You still have to build the stacks and like you'll still lose. You won't be able to maintain Galvanize all the time on you or your teammates. And because of that, it's more situational. And I just like Coyote Mask is just permanent and helps almost just as much, I'd argue, except just in the DPS department. So I still feel like this build overall is better even than that one, just for the general help it gives that doesn't require much from the person doing it. But that's just my personal preference. By the way, one last thing, in Countdown I'm almost always in the back because I'm just following the group, but then I'm also taking my time to get every loot I see, so I'm usually all the way in the back too, which is also why like my damage and kill numbers are also usually pretty low, not just because, well, this build is not a DPS build, like I said, but also because of that too. But again, this is why this build is even perfect for my style like that, because again, I don't really have to be there. Like, I mean, I should be there, of course. I get there and eventually contribute to the DPS as I was doing here. But it's like, I don't have to be there to do the biggest things I help the team with. I just got to pop my shield whenever the buff's ready to go. And I can, because the hunters, of course, get in the way of that sometimes, as they did here. But pop my shield whenever I can to buff them. And then Coyote Mask and ammo generation, of course, are always going off. Of course, I need to get there to have Bullet King help with the ammo consumption some. The ammo consumption, though, is just a minor thing, because a lot of times teammates don't even need that, but it's still nice to have sometimes.